Hi, Dan. You'd be interested to hear on whether Richard Hart is a narcissist. I've actually commented on this 1 or 2 years ago. Yeah, I made quite a long video about it. It was in one of my segments. The answer is no. He's not even anywhere near close to a narcissist. Okay? Narcissists, yeah, they've got a big image of themselves, but I think most people, they misidentify it. So they think, oh, if you like yourself, if you have big self-esteem, you're a narcissist. Totally wrong. Okay? Narcissists, they have low empathy. Narcissists, right? I've known in real life. I've been betrayed. Yeah, let's say I've been betrayed in my life. But a real narcissist, okay, they think that, okay, so firstly, they exploit you. All right? They have like a bit of pathological tendencies. They exploit you, but they also, they think that they have a right to exploit you because you're hanging around them. So narcissists, okay, they think you're like literally, you're beneath them, right? And they think, well, because they think they're so good, they think just you hanging around them, you're doing them a favor, all right? Or they're doing you a favor, okay? So there's a narcissistic dude. They would think, oh, look at everybody. I'm doing everyone a favor by being here. And they exploit people over time. Also, a narcissist, okay, nothing offends a narcissist more. This is a key thing with Richard Hart, how you know he's not one, all right? Nothing offends them more than when someone leaves. Where they say, I'm done with you. I don't want to like give you attention. Yeah. A real narcissist, okay, they actually get a panic when, you know, where they think the plebs who are hanging around them, people do this in real life. Yeah, if someone actually like says, you know what, I'm just going to ignore that person, I'm not going to talk to them anymore, that gives them panic. Yeah, that's actually, you take away all their power, right? Richard Hart, me, for example, we're both telling people, hey, leave. Oh, you're not in it for the long run? Get out. Yeah, narcissists, they never dare say that. They never, ever, they don't even joke about that. Okay? They're always trying to pretty much, you know, hang around, make sure that you like, you know, you're getting your aura off them. So yeah, like, because when you think narcissistic, we generally think, oh, okay, the person, they're looking at themselves in the mirror. They go, mirror, mirror on the wall, I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest. Okay, that's why, like, you know, most people just think, oh no, that most people would think, you know, okay, if you like yourself, that, you know, you have those tendencies, but it's not actually true. Narcissists as well, they have like a need for, you know, admiration. So look, here's the thing. If you look at like the biggest billionaires and stuff, right, they don't communicate like Richard. They don't communicate to the average person. You know, like even like Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, they couldn't really like speak to a lot of normies just in the day-to-day, right? But if you go and look at their private lives and people who work with them, like they have huge egos. They really think they're the best in the world. You could very easily think, if you go hang around Elon Musk at work, they go, dude, this guy's a narcissist. Steve Jobs, oh, he was a narcissist, okay? But, you know, it's actually not the case. So there's a fine line there with people's perceptions when it comes to like confidence and stuff. But that's what I want to let you know on the topic of narcissism, and that in particular. Narcissists will never, ever, ever even dare you. They will never even joke, hey, leave. I don't even want your energy. Get out. They don't want that. Narcissists, they feed off that. Yeah. But also that's why it becomes dangerous. Narcissists, this way it becomes like, you know, it's a bit rough to think about this because you can psych yourself out. A narcissist also thinks, like I mentioned before, if they exploit you, right, and you're hanging around, they're like, oh, well, obviously what I'm doing, they'll think, obviously what I'm doing is okay to exploit you because just being around me is positive energy and positive vibes and positive EV for you. Just being around me, just because I'm so amazing, you know? But yeah, because every altcoin's down for 4.5 years, it's very easy just to say, oh, every single altcoin leader's a narcissist. Would you say, oh, Charles Hoskinson's a narcissist? Okay, so we can't really, like, you know, go down that path with any reasonable conclusion. So where does it actually come from? Well, here's the thing, man. Richard, you got to remember, Richard is very malleable and he can adapt super fast. He adapts so fast, like most people, our brains were like not used to seeing a human morph so often, because when we see morphing, we think chameleon, reptilian, we think like someone untrustworthy, like a snake. That's what we think. But actually, everyone does that. You just don't see them doing it so fast. You know, companies change their marketing strategies all the time. Yeah. Oh, we're on Republicans. No, we're on the blue team. Oh no, I like this. I like that. Oh no, let's go for young kids now. Let's go for old kids. But you don't think, oh, that's snaky, right? Because you don't really see it all one guy doing it. Richard's like he's one of those polycule dudes. I don't forgot that word, polymaths, where he can literally do a lot of things at once. He doesn't need to go grab a team and get 13 people to make a decision. That's what makes him special. But, you know, he can speak. That's why it's unique. You know what I mean? It's unique. Like when he speaks to someone, he can literally put himself in the shoes of the average person with $800 worth of XRP. You know, he can do that. And then he can go speak to, okay, if I'm going to go speak to the president, how am I going to talk? Yeah, he can literally do that. Whereas most people can't, you know. But that's why, if you look at PulseChain, that's why a lot of people say it's a one-man show. And they're like, oh, it's bad. I'm like, no, it's not, dude. Bro, it's literally like betting on Tesla because of Elon. Would you say Tesla's a one-man show? Pretty much. Look at everything Elon had to do to get it on the way. You know what I mean? Of course, there's a big team and stuff behind it, but you know for a fact, man, it feels like it's a one-man show. And it's amazing. That's what you want. You want centralized risk like that at the start, and then it dilutes over time, you know? So I think it's a very important question, Mr. Dan, to think about that. Because you want to know, right? Like, are you on the right path or not? Yeah, because he's obviously got very confidence. But remember as well, Richard, his audience, he knows his audience. Okay, so like if I show you, for example, Donald Trump, okay, let's go look at Donald Trump. Donald Trump, conservative Republican, okay? You see, Donald Trump, that's his political affiliation. Donald Trump, friends, obviously, he's a strong man, okay? The character of a strong man, there's no apologizing. There's no weakness. There's no soft spot, you know? And a lot of people beg him, please, just say sorry. Just say you're wrong. No, dude, it doesn't work. Trust me, it doesn't work. It does not work. You got to know your target market. His target market is, you know, people who respect power, respect authority, respect status like that. You know, people who love seeing a negotiator where you're like, it's someone who's got balls. He's like, oh yeah, China, I don't care. 100% tariffs. I don't care if we send their economy down 8% GDP in 1 year because I'm not going to bend my will. You know, that's him, you know. But then if you go to say, let's say someone who's more like a peacetime president, like Bill Clinton, okay? Bill Clinton, otherwise known as Bubba, right? Bubba Clinton, he was known for being like the best president to bring everyone together. Yeah. You know, Bill Clinton, he was so good with words. You know, he was getting Democrats and Republicans to agree with each other in Congress and be like, you know what? He's right. Let's come together for this issue and then let's separate. Yeah. They weren't like hating each other as much now. It wasn't like highly friction. You see what I mean? But if Bill Clinton came out and he's like, yeah, I'm going to be swinging my big fat willy, it wouldn't work. That's not him. Okay? You know? But think about it. Like, you know, would you dare not say, of course he has a big ego. Bro, he became the president. Duh. You know what I mean? He was waking up every day, touring all around the world. It's just that when you look at him, you don't think narcissist, do you? You don't think, oh, does this guy have a real big ego or anything? Like, during the time, he was a peace mediator to go around, you know? That's why it's very important. And we can look at the same thing with crypto, right? So obviously, Richard Hart, I was the first person to say, I think it was in 2020, Richard Hart is the Donald Trump of crypto. I was the first person to even utter that. I think no one ever uttered that. I wasn't even within Hex community, really. Okay? He's like Donald Trump of crypto because he knows his target market, man. And it's not just he knows that. Like, that's just him, man. That's just him, okay? You know, in PulseChain, and especially with Hex, you know, a lot of Hex people were army vets. Yeah? A lot of army veterans in Hex. What are army veterans? You're trained, don't ask questions. You're trained, be a yes man, follow orders. He's the sergeant. He's the sergeant's sergeant, right? He's Sir Sergeant, even on top of him. You get that? You respect authority. You're a little platoon soldier. You go move. Okay? You don't ask questions. You see, that's they respond to that, this team type of effort, right? So he knows it. And look, it's not just him knows it, he attracts that. That's it. You gotta know what type of people you attract, right? Now, I'm gonna give you another contrast, right? Let's look at Charles Hoskinson. Chuck. Meditating out here. Charles Hoskinson, leader of Cardanzo, right? Nerd. White papers. Right? Nerd. White papers. You know, he does maths. You know, thinking about, makes weird worded stuff like dejed for a stable coin. All right. The people in Cardanzo, they are all like, book readers. They have turtleneck vests. They got checkered cardigans. They probably wear those sleeves with a French cut white long sleeve shirt with like a cardigan over. They brew their own coffee. You know what I mean? They have in their living rooms, they've got that deer head. You know what I mean? The deer head. If I was to think about, I think Matt Walsh looks like a Cardanzo dude. Let me just show you. Matt Walsh studio. Let me just show you, like right here. Yes, this is a Cardanzo dude. You know what I mean? Like a smart nerd. He's got like a cabinet. There's trees in the background. That's Cardanzo. This is how I see these things differently. Now I'm going to tell you something else as well. What about Brad Garlicbreath? Okay, Brad Garlicbreath. He's been eating a lot of thorn. Yeah, Brad Garlicbreath, he's not a strong man. Okay, he can't do Richard Hart stuff. He can't do Donald Trump stuff, right? He's more a banker. He's like a Jamie Dimon, where they come out and their words are totally different. They're literally, they walk the fine line because he's like, it's CEO talk 24/7. Nothing controversial. CEO talk, right? It's all because he's always speaking to, like the higher ups, a future banking sponsor, the sponsor of the sponsor, some Saudi Arabian dude over here with a lot of money, and then he's speaking to a new exchange they're going to get a deal with, okay? There's no friction at all. No friction. That's why XRP is like, it's a banker's coin. I mean, it's even got the term banker. Look at him. He's wearing suits. You know what I mean? He's wearing suits. Compare that to say like, Donald Trump. You ever see Donald Trump? He's like trolling everybody on stage and Richard Hart grabbing his own boobs. You know what I mean? It's different. It's because they're confident in their own zone. Yeah. So I think it's very important. So it's a great question, right? Remember, friends, we all started with my friend, Mr. Danbu, asking, is Richard Hart a narcissist? You got to understand this if you're in a crypto. You have to understand this, okay? By the way, you can almost gather what Satoshi was like just by checking out what the Bitcoin maxis are like. Okay? You can almost really gather that. Yeah? So, very important, right? Also, Vitalik, super neutral. Vitalik as well, Vitalik can't be a strong man. No way. Vitalik, By the way, would you call Vitalik a narcissist? No, you wouldn't. Why? Because, probably has a low cost of means. But, bro, Vitalik literally had 15 million people telling him to stop drinking soy and to fire that Japanese Tamagotchi girl and to stop destroying the whole Ethereum Foundation and billions of dollars and stop being a little cuck because you're literally ruining people's life savings. Okay? If Richard was out here, he's like, silence! That's Richard talking to his demographic. But Vitalik, what I was telling you, Vitalik publicly was saying nothing. He's like, he's just neutral. Publicly he's neutral. But what I was telling you, I'm like, bro, he's going back. He's meeting with the OGs of Ethereum. He's like, okay, we got to fire that bitch. We've got to change that. We've got to install that guy. That guy's got big traps. He trains at the gym. He squats. Let's put him at the front of the face. Let's quietly remove some of the soy in the background, okay? But you got to remember, Vitalik's like a massive alien, right? So he's training us. We're like dog humans to him. We're like literally like dogs. So Vitalik, when people yell, Vitalik doesn't talk back. Why? Because Vitalik sees us as children, low IQ children, which we are compared to him. So he thinks if you're yelling at him and he responds back, he thinks you are being trained that it's positive behavior reinforcing if you keep yelling at him. So he doesn't talk at all. Okay? Do you understand? I've given you literally this psychological scope of what we're in, the type of personality and the character we're in. That's why when I see crypto, it's just different flavors of ice cream. But that's why when a lot of people call Richard Hart a scammer, I'm thinking, well, look, no, he just knows how to speak to people in a very good way. Yeah, and it also like some people get upset because when Richard Hart was in Richard Hart Black Talk. Do you remember when he was talking to one of the black dudes? There was some dude, I was an African American guy. Yeah, and Richard Hart literally he turned into he started speaking like I think he went to an all black school, so he started speaking like a bit African American, and people were like, oh, what's going on? It's because they're like seeing him adapt. But, when you're spoken to by him, you think like, oh, he's speaking to me because he's just like me. But no, you don't even know the extent of it, dude. You don't know the extent of it, Like, it's just that you get to see it in action. And people think it's a bad thing. No, it's a good thing. Because you get to see it. It's real. It's in front of us, okay? You don't know how Elon talks to his banker. You don't know how Elon talks to his mum. You don't know how Elon talks to an employee in the elevator or the mechanical engineer polishing his rocket. You don't know how he's talking to Tiffany Fong. You see what I mean? You just don't get to see it. You just get to see Elon out there in the front. You just get to see these people. Brad Garlicbreath, right? You don't see how he's picking up girls on Tinder, right? You don't see that. Okay, but with Richard, because it's more like a one-man show, is got these talents, you can actually see a lot of these things happening. Whereas a lot of people don't. You don't see how Vitalik's talking to people he wants to get out of Ethereum in the background on Discord. You don't see the language he's using. You don't know, him. He see what I mean? It's just that we're gifted. We can actually see this because there's no VCs, man. It's us. That's why people are in disbelief. But that's good because we haven't seen it before, okay? So I hope you understand this. Think about all the coins you hold. Who's holding them? What's the personality type of them? All you're trying to really see is, are they going to quit on me in the short term or not? If they're going to quit on you in the short term, well, we're all wrecked. That's what we want. We don't want that. We want a long-term thinker. So we understand what's driving these people, the psychological and the personalities of these. Yeah. So friends, you understand like what I've just gone through. I've blown your mind. I'm here 18 hours a day. I can see this. Okay. This is like, if these things end up working out and we do get these hypergalactic pumps, you will get to see that, hopefully it's all for a good reason, okay? Look what happened today. PulseChain's up on the positive news that a mysterious legendary whale is moving $600 million worth of Ethereum. And then some Easter eggs here. Look at this, Mr. Identity Block. The whale on Binance was making moves a week ago before the Ethereum reserve was moved. This is the PulseChain Sacrifice Treasury. And then check out this LibertySwap Finance post, okay? The whale might have $600 million worth of ETH somewhere else, and he's using a Binance account to 1. Short Ethereum, although that's a tough move since ETH is likely heading up. Who knows? 2. Use it as a mixer to send funds anonymously somewhere else to pump his coin. $1 indeed. Pulse to $1. Hex to $1. PDI $1. Here we have my friend here, Dosman. WTF is about to happen. I'm so excited I can't sleep. I reckon chill out, sir. It might be a while. We're just waiting. So that's why I've given you all this information. I don't know the future. It's just I help explain. Okay, I know all this stuff about Richard is nowhere near, not even close to a narcissist. He's got a big ego, but look how successful he is. He knows the answers to a lot of stuff. Duh. You know what I mean? You're going to have some confidence when you know the answers to a lot of things and you know how to maneuver and deal with a lot of adversity. So a lot of people still think he's rugged. A lot of Bitcoin maxis and everyone out here, they're saying, oh, the money's gone. And some losers, some cry fags within PulseChain community have said, oh, the money's gone and it's rugged. Dude, I really hope you're joking because you guys don't sound like you're joking. Like, you honestly think after all of this high-value content in crypto, this is a freaking rug. All right, well, whatever. Cool. Oh, do you know what I mean? So you get it. You remember, what we're looking at is, what's our long-term confidence indicator here? That's the most important of all. Is it shaken up? Nah, not even shaken. This is consistent with everything we've expected before. All right. Not in terms of the exact events happening, but it is consistent. It seems to be like it's part of the same movie. And the movie ends with all of us celebrating. Like, subscribe, belly button, all. Catch you in the next one.